Hello, dear students, and welcome back to the second chapter of history, that is From Trade to Political Supremacy. Today, we are going to start the third part of this chapter. So, in the previous part, I have explained you about the Battle of Plassey. We have seen that how the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Daulah, and the company official Robert Clive had a powerful struggle at Plassey in 1757. We have seen this also, that Siraj-ud-Daulah was defeated in that battle just because of his commander-in-chief Mir Jafar. Robert Clive conspired with Mir Jafar and they both defeated Siraj-ud-Daulah in the Battle of Plassey. Now, what happened after the Battle of Plassey? Robert Clive made Mir Jafar the Nawab of Bengal. Now let's have a look. Now we are going to learn further topics of this chapter. Let's have a look on the content first. Background of the Battle of Buxar. We will learn about one new battle, that is Battle of Buxar, that was fought in 1764. Treaty of Allahabad, dual administration, Anglo-Mysore wars, Anglo-Maratha wars, Sindh and Afghanistan, and Punjab. So we are going to start our first topic, that is background of the Battle of Buxar. Now, after the Battle of Plassey was fought, Mir Jafar was appointed as the Nawab of Bengal. Mir Jafar was appointed as the Nawab of Bengal, and Mir Jafar became the puppet ruler of company, or we can say that Mir Jafar became the puppet ruler of Britishers. Now, when Mir Jafar, so initially what happened, Mir Jafar keep on fulfilling the demands of the Britishers, but it was kept on increasing. Now, Mir Jafar conspired against EIC. Now, what happened when he protested for his subject against the company? Mir Jafar, company started treating Mir Jafar as puppet ruler only, and the demand of company kept on increasing. So, by seeing this, Mir Jafar conspired against English East India Company and he joined hands with Dutch East India Company. He had an idea that let's two company or two commercial company fight with each other and I will enjoy. He invited them, that means he invited Dutch East India Company to remove English East India Company from Bengal. Now, Dutch East India Company also welcomed the opportunity and thought that after removing English East India Company, they can become the leading trading company in India. And Mir Jafar thought that let both companies fight together and I will enjoy. So exactly what happened, that company or EIC make Mir Jafar the Nawab of the Bengal. Mir Jafar was the puppet ruler. Initially, he was kept on fulfilling the demands of Britishers, but the demand of Britishers was increasing day by day. So after that, Mir Jafar conspired against English East India Company and he joined hand with Dutch East India Company. Dutch East India, he invited Dutch East India Company to remove English East India Company from Bengal. Dutch East India Company welcomed it as an opportunity, and Dutch East India Company thought that if they will remove English East India Company from India, then they can become the leading commercial company in India. So he also get ready to fight with English East India Company. But as EIC came to know about this, that the troops of Dutch English East India Company is marching towards Bengal. So English East India Company also sent their troops to Chinsura place. This is the name of a place, Chinsura, in Calcutta. So the Dutch East India Company and English East India Company had a war there. The English East India Company defeated Dutch English East India Company and kicked them out of Bengal. So like this, in this also English East India Company won. And after this battle, they just company deposed him. Now company deposed Mir Jafar from the power. He said that you conspire against us, you are not allowed to rule anymore in Bengal, and installed his son-in-law Mir Qasim. Now Mir Qasim will become the new Nawab of Bengal, and they deposed him and installed his son Mir Qasim on his place as a Nawab of Bengal. Now next what happened? After some time, Mir Qasim, initially he was also fulfilling the demand of Britishers, but later he understood that if he will keep on fulfilling the demand of Britishers like this only, then the treasury of Bengal will become empty and he will be also thrown like Mir Jafar. After some time, Mir Qasim also started complaining against the company officials. Now he also started complaining against the company official. Mir Qasim took some steps also that were against the company, and not only complained, he also took some major steps that were against the Britishers, and this activity of Mir Qasim only angered the Britishers, angered the British company officials, that finally resulted to the Battle of Buxar in 1764. Now students, let's have a look that what such kind of activities Mir Qasim did that resulted in the Battle of Buxar. So let's have a look on this. What were the major activities done by Mir Qasim? Mir Qasim shifted his capital from Murshidabad to Munger fort. As we have learned earlier that the capital of Bengal was Murshidabad. Now he shifted the capital from Murshidabad, and he shifted his capital from Murshidabad to Munger fort. He shifted his capital from Murshidabad to Munger fort. Now why he did this? He thought that if I will shift my capital from Murshidabad to Munger, then his motto behind this was to maintain distance from the Britishers. He only wanted to maintain some distance from the Britishers so that he can plan something. And the distance between Munger and Murshidabad is approximately 350 km away. So first step that he took was he shifted his capital from Murshidabad to Munger fort just to maintain distance from the Britishers, and the distance between Murshidabad and Munger is 350 km. Now he dismissed all Mir Jafar's officials who were close to the English East India Company. Now it is obvious that when Mir Jafar was the Nawab, he was having some officials, so those officials were also in the favor of English East India Company. So he threw out all those officials who were close to English East India Company. Second step he did this. Now next was he hired European military experts. He hired European military experts to train his army in the new method of warfare. Now he started hiring foreign military expert to train his army, means that he was getting ready himself for the war with the Britishers. Now he started manufacturing weapons and guns also. The most important thing that he did was abolished tax on internal trade. What he did? He abolished tax on internal trade. What does it mean? Abolition of taxes on internal trade. Internal trade means he abolished taxes for the local Indians. Students, you are already knowing that for doing trading or business in Bengal, Britishers do not have to pay, English East India Company do not have to pay any kind of tax. But the traders, the local traders or the traders that belong to India, they were paying 40% tax at that time for doing trade. So this was only what Mir Qasim thought that. So what was the condition at that time? That Indians were paying, Indian traders were paying 40% tax, and English East India Company was doing trade without paying tax. So it is quite obvious that EEIC was making a lot or huge profit in comparison to the internal traders. What Mir Qasim thought that if he will make the tax, or if he will make the tax zero for the internal traders also, then they will also start earning profits. So it will be against the interest of the British officials. So as they were paying 40% tax which Britishers were not paying. Next what he did, check the misuse of trade privileges enjoyed by the British. He also checked that what were the other trade privileges that Britishers were enjoying. So all these activities were totally against the Britishers. So that is why the Britishers angered, the British English East India Company angered, and this resulted in three small battles between English East India Company and Mir Qasim. This resulted in three small battles between English East India Company and Mir Qasim. What happened after that? Mir Qasim was defeated in these battles and ran away to Shujadud-Dawla. Please remember this name. And he ran to Shujaduddin or Shujadud-Dawla, the Nawab of Awadh. That was the Nawab of Bengal was Shirajud-Dawla, and the Nawab of Awadh is Shuja-ud-Dawla. So he ran to Nawab of Awadh, that is Shuja-ud-Dawla that time. Now what happened when he go to Shujadud-Dawla? He came to Shujadud-Dawla, the Nawab of Awadh, and Shujadud-Dawla also agreed to support Mir Qasim against English East India Company. Now at that time, the Mughal emperor was Shah Alam II. The Mughal Empire was ruled by Shah Alam II. When Shah Alam II came to know about that Shujadud-Dawla and Mir Qasim are making the alliance against the Britishers, so he also agreed to support them, and he also decided that he is also going to support them against the English East India Company. Now what exactly happened? That Mir Qasim, Shujadud-Dawla and Shah Alam formed an alliance against English East India Company. Now let's have a look next. So the Battle of Buxar started in 1764. Buxar is a place near Bengal only. The Battle of Buxar was fought on 22nd October 1764 between forces under the command of English East India Company led by Hector Munro. So students, one thing I want to tell you in this, that during this time Robert Clive, in 1760 only, Robert Clive went back to London. Robert Clive went back to London. That is why this time in Battle of Buxar, the British East India Company or the forces of British East India Company was led by Hector Munro, a British official. And next side, the combined troops of the alliance of the Indian rulers, that is Mir Qasim, Shujadud-Dawla and Shah Alam II. So basically what happened in the Battle of Buxar, that these three rulers came to Buxar with a combined army of 40,000 soldiers. Now the allies or the alliance of Indian reached Buxar. So Buxar is a place in Bihar nowadays in 1764, and the troops of English East India Company also came. Since Robert Clive was in England, the English East India Company was governed by Hector Munro along with 10,000 soldiers. So the Indian allies was having 40,000 soldiers and the British only came with 10,000 soldiers. This battle was fought 3 to 4 hours and Mir Qasim escaped from the battle. Now let's have a look what happened in this battle. Yeah, what was the result of this battle? The result of this battle was Mir Qasim escaped from the battle. Mir Qasim just ran away again from the battle. Shujadud-Dawla and Shah Alam surrendered to EIC. Shujadud-Dawla and Shah Alam was also not able to fight more. That is why Shujadud-Dawla and Shah Alam also surrendered to EIC, and the result of battle was this, that the English East India Company won the battle very easily. This was only the result of Battle of Buxar. Now what happened after the Battle of Buxar? Now in 1765, Robert Clive came back to India. When Robert Clive came back to India, he called Shah Alam, or he met Shah Alam II, and he said that come with your alliance and meet me in Allahabad. So our next topic is the Treaty of Allahabad in 1765. We can also say Treaty of Prayagraj. So in 1765, you can see here in the picture also, in 1765, Robert Clive met Shah Alam and Shujatud Daulah. Now Shujatud Daulah and Robert Clive have treaty. Treaty means when two parties agreed on something, that is only the treaty. So here the Treaty of Allahabad was signed by the Indian rulers. Now what was that treaty? In that treaty, now the terms of the Treaty of Allahabad, in that treaty, Mir Qasim was already escaped. So Shah Alam granted the Diwani rights. Diwani rights means the right of collecting the tax of three places, that is Bihar, Bengal and Odisha, to the company. Now, after the Battle of Buxar, company has the Diwani right of three places, Bengal, Bihar and Odisha. Earlier, according to the Farman of Farrukhsiyar, company was having only this much liberty that they can do trade in these places without paying tax. But now, company is not only doing trade freely, but company is allowed to collect the taxes also. Next, in return, what company did? In return, company paid an annual tribute of rupees 26 lakhs to Shah Alam. Company said that you give the Diwani rights of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha to us and we will pay you 26 lakhs rupees annually. Now, next, what happened? This happened with Shah Alam. Robert Clive was ready to return Awadh to Shujatud-Daulah. Robert Clive said that I am ready to give Awadh back to you, but in return of it, you have to also pay the indemnity. That means the damages, whatever damages had made during the battle, you have to pay for those damages. And he asked for 50 lakhs rupees from Shujatud Daulah. Now, next, not only this much, not only 50 lakh rupees, the company had also taken the charge of two places, that is Kora and Allahabad, that was under Shujatud Daulah. Company said that we are going to return you your Awadh. In place of Awadh, you have to give us Kora and Allahabad, and you have to also give us 50 lakhs rupees. The company provided. Company said this. For this, we will provide you protectorate. That means we will protect Awadh. Means British will protect Awadh from internal and external attack. This was only protectorate. Britishers said that we will protect your Awadh. For that, there is no need you to keep army. Our British army will only protect your Awadh, and for that you have to pay to the British army also. Now, exactly what happened? Shujatud-Daulah has the power of Nawab of Bengal, but he has to give 50 lakh rupees as the war damages. He returned, or he was forced to give his Kora and Allahabad places, and now he do not keep army anymore. Now Britishers will only protect Shujatud-Daulah's Awadh, and now Shujatud-Daulah has to pay for keeping the armies also. Now next, what happened? Since Mir Qasim was escaped, Mir Qasim was escaped from the battle. That is why he was deposed. He was deposed from the throne, and now again Mir Jafar became the ruler of Nawab, and Mir Jafar became the Nawab of Bengal. So this was only what happened after the Battle of Buxar. So Battle of Buxar was the main turning point, because from this time only, now company had the right, or company became the real masters of Bengal. The English East India Company basically became the real masters of Bengal. Now one more thing happened after this, that let's have a next topic. After the Battle of Buxar, what happened? So the grant of Diwani, when Britishers started, or English East India Company started getting the Diwani right, now all the resources, revenue resources, are with them. Three states, three provinces were giving the taxes to Britishers to use vast revenue resource of Bengal to purchase cotton and silk textile in India. Earlier, what they were doing, that they were bringing their gold and silver to purchase raw materials from India. But now, since they are getting revenue from India, so they have started using that revenue money for collecting the raw materials from India only, cotton and silk. Maintain company troops, and they started spending their revenue money for maintaining their army also, building forts for fortifying their factories, for building new factories and offices in India. So, the Diwani allowed the company to use the vast revenue resources of Bengal. Now, one more thing, Robert Clive also introduced dual administration, that is Diarchi in Bengal. I will explain you Diarchi. Mir Jafar became the Nawab of Bengal, but he was only responsible for the administration because finance was with the Britishers. The company did not use the revenue amount to make improvement in Bengal, which steadily drained of its wealth. Now, company was not spending any money for the improvement of Bengal. Next one is dual system, that is dual administration, that is Diarchi. Dual administration means two government will work. The British officials said that now Indian rulers will also rule and we will also rule. Yani EIC will also rule. Now in this what happened, that this system was introduced, remember this thing, this system was introduced by Robert Clive in 1765. The Nawab of Bengal had powers regarding military. Nawab had the power regarding military. That means they have to maintain military, they have to pay for the military, criminal jurisdiction also with them. They have to look out the crimes that was going on in the province, and they have to also look after the administration. But all these things, how a ruler can administer if he is not having money, because finance was in the hands of Britishers. Now, the company became the real masters of Bengal by exercising control over revenue and finance. Money was with Britishers and responsibilities were with Indian rulers. So, exactly what happened, that the company had all the powers but no responsibility. According to dual administration, company had all the powers but no responsibility, while the Nawab had all the responsibilities but no power and finance to run the administration. Now, in 1772, Warren Hastings, the next governor of Bengal, ended the dual government in 1772. So, this dual government or dual administration was ended by Warren Hastings in 1772. This was introduced by Robert Clive in 1765 and was ended by Warren Hastings in 1772. Now, why Warren Hastings ended this dual government? Because he found out that the British officials are only becoming corrupt. That is why they removed this dual administration from India. Next is Mysore. Now we are going to learn about Mysore. In the starting of the explanation only, I have explained you about the regional kingdoms. Among that, Mysore was also a place in South India. So Mysore was ruled by Vodeyar dynasty. Mysore was ruled by Vodeyar dynasty, and after that it came under the control of Hyder Ali. In 1761, Hyder Ali became the ruler of Mysore, and after that his son Tipu Sultan ruled Mysore. When Mysore was growing into power, at that time only, means from the growing power of Mysore, the Britishers got irritated and they thought that they have to look upon the activities that are being carried out by the Mysore rulers. Now, what happened after that? The Britishers, the company resorted to direct military confrontation when it saw a threat to its political or economic threats. Company was totally afraid of the of the rising power of Hyder Ali. That is why it led to a series of wars between the English East India Company had and the rulers of Mysore, that is Hyder Ali and Tipu Sultan. So basically Tipu Sultan and Hyder Ali was ruling on area of Mysore, that is in South India. Hyder Ali was a very powerful ruler and he sat on throne in 1761. Britishers started afraiding by the rising power of Hyder Ali, and that is why they tried to suppress them. This only led to a series of battles from 1767 to 1799. So, if we will talk about Anglo, now we are going to learn about Anglo-Mysore wars. So, students, total 4 wars took place between Anglo means Britishers and Mysore means the ruler of Mysore. The first war took place in 1767. Now, when Britishers saw that Mysore or the rulers of Mysore are rising very fast, then they formed an alliance. Britishers formed an alliance with Nizams of Hyderabad and Marathas. Now, and attacked on Hyder Ali in 1767. What happened? The Britishers formed an alliance, that means group, with Nizams of Hyderabad and Marathas and attacked on Mysore in 1767. Hyder Ali was very powerful and he defeated them and forced the British to sign a treaty. And in this battle, Britishers were defeated by Hyder Ali and they have to sign a treaty. That means both of them were ready for some things, that is the treaty. And this battle was ended by the Treaty of Madras. Do remember that the Treaty of Madras was signed between Hyder Ali and English East India Company in 1765, and after that only the first Anglo-Mysore war came to an end. Now, according to this treaty, in war period, the territories conquered by Britishers and Mysore ruler Hyder Ali, they have to return those territories to them. The conquered territories were restored to each other. They have to return their territories to each other. Now, the British and Hyder Ali agreed, both of them agreed that in case in future if a third party attack, then they both will help each other. That means if some power will attack on Britishers, then Hyder Ali will help Britishers, and if some power will attack on Hyder Ali, then Britishers should help Hyder Ali. This was the treaty. So basically you can say that the first Anglo-Mysore war was fought in 1767 between what? Between the alliance of Nizams of Hyderabad and Marathas with the Britishers and the Hyder Ali's troop. In this battle, Hyder Ali defeated Britishers and one treaty was signed, and that treaty was the Treaty of Madras. What happened in that? The main factor is that the British and Hyder Ali agreed to help each other in case of attack by third party. What happened after that? Second Anglo-Maratha War was fought in 1780. Second Anglo-Maratha War was fought in 1780. So in Second Anglo-Maratha War was a conflict between the Kingdom of Mysore and British East India Company from 1780 to 1784. 4 years war it was. What happened? Now, Marathas attacked on Hyder Ali. When Marathas attacked on Hyder Ali, so according to the Treaty of Madras, Britishers should come to help Hyder Ali, but Britishers did not come to his help. And in this war, Hyder Ali died in 1782. In the second battle of Mysore and Anglo-Mysore War, Hyder Ali was died in 1782, and after that the battle was continued by his son Tipu Sultan. Now his son Tipu Sultan continued the war, which came to an end in 1784, and in 1784 again one treaty was signed and the battle came to an end. The treaty was Treaty of Mangalore. Students, in class 8th, these wars are not given in such detail, means each and every treaty and each and every war we are not going to learn, we are not going to learn in detail, but we are this is included because so that we come to know that how Britishers were able to expand their power in India. Now they are fighting with Mysore, and the ultimate or the last result or the final result of these battles will be that Britishers will be able to conquer the areas that were ruled by Mysore rulers. This only the gist of these wars is this only. So this in second Anglo Mysore war, what happened, started in 1780, and in 1782, after the death of Hyder Ali, Tipu Sultan continued the battle. This battle also came to an end in 1782 only, after signing the Treaty of Mangalore. Now, the Third Anglo Mysore War. The Third Anglo Mysore War was started in 1785 and ended in 1794. Now, look what happened. Since this one, Mysore was situated here, and they were ruling at Malabar coast. They were having the control on trade that was done by Malabar coast. Tipu Sultan and major things were exported from here, from which Britishers were earning profit, like sandalwood, pepper, cardamom. All these things were exported from the port of Mysore. Tipu Sultan stopped the export of some of these profitable items like sandalwood, pepper, cardamom. He said that now these things will not be exported from the court of Mysore. This agreed the rulers of British. Tipu had also established a close relationship with the French rulers. Tipu has a very close relationship with the French rulers, and due to that only, and French armies, French trainers were also came to India to train Tipu Sultan's army. We have learned this in class 7th only. So all these things, Tipu Sultan was also modernizing his army. Tipu Sultan stopped the export of some profitable goods from Malabar coast. So all these things angered Britishers, and like this the Third Anglo Mysore was started. In this, Tipu Sultan was defeated. In this battle, Third Anglo Mysore War, Tipu Sultan was defeated, and Treaty of Seringamapatnam took place. Since Seringamapatnam was the capital of Tipu Sultan, so in 1794 the battle came to an end, and Tipu Sultan has to sign Treaty of Seringamapatnam. Now, what happened in that treaty? According to this treaty, he had to give away a large part of his kingdom. According to this treaty, see like how King Mysore's territories are going into the hand of Britishers. Now, Tipu Sultan has to give Coorg, Malabar, and then Dandigul to the Britishers according to this treaty, and he had to pay a huge fine for the damages that occurred during the war. He has to send two of his sons, and Britishers imprisoned his two sons. Britishers also took his two sons and kept them in prison. So what happened in the third battle of Panipat? The third battle of Anglo-Mysore's third battle. It started in 1785 when two reasons were there. First of all, the Tipu Sultan blocked the export of profitable goods from Malabar coast. Next was that he had a good relation with the French, and he invited French trainers to India or to his kingdom for training his army or modernizing his army. After that only the Treaty of Seringamapatnam took place in 1794, and the battle came to an end. What was according to the Treaty of Seringamapatnam? Tipu Sultan has to give some of the part of his territories to Britishers like Coorg, Malabar, and Dandigul, and he had to pay a huge fine also. And his two sons were imprisoned by Britishers. Now we will have a look on the fourth Anglo-Mysore battle. Fourth Anglo-Mysore battle took place in 1798 and ended in 1799. What happened in this? Lord Wellesley, the Governor General of India at that time. I will explain you about Governor General further. Okay, Lord Wellesley was the Governor General of India at that time, and he wanted Tipu Sultan to accept the subsidiary alliance. About the Governor General, about Regulatory Act, and about subsidiary alliance we are going to learn in next part. So Tipu Sultan, Wellesley wanted Tipu Sultan to accept the subsidiary alliance. That means he wants, subsidiary means under him. Wellesley wanted that Tipu Sultan came under the Britishers' control after accepting the subsidiary alliance. When now Tipu Sultan refused, that he will not accept the subsidiary alliance. The Fourth Anglo-Mysore War took place in 1798. Unfortunately, Tipu died fighting in the battle, and in the Fourth Anglo-Mysore battle, Tipu Sultan also died. The British annexed a large part of his conquest. Britishers annexed, conquered large part of Mysore and gave them to the Nizams of Hyderabad and gave it to the Nizams of Hyderabad. The rest of the power was signed to the Wadeyars dynasty. Now, Wadeyar dynasty, that was the first ruling dynasty on Mysore. They only get the rest of the power of the Mysore because they were also ready to accept the subsidiary alliance. Nizams of Hyderabad were the first to accept the subsidiary alliance. Now, like this, Fourth Anglo-Mysore battle also came to an end, and like this only, the rulers of Mysore also came to an end. Tipu Sultan died in this battle, and the power of Mysore was transferred to the Britishers. Now, the Marathas. These are also the regional powers that was emerging very fast during that time. So that after the third battle of Panipat that took place in 1761, after the third battle of Panipat that took place in 1761, that battle of Plassey was took place between Marathas and Ahmad Shah Abdali, the Afghan ruler. All of us are knowing that, we have learned in class 7th also. Ahmad Shah Abdali won this battle and Marathas were defeated here. Now, after this defeat, we have learned this also, that Marathas were divided into 5 confederacy. They divided into 5 chief. They were having 5 chiefs and they were ruling different areas by under these chiefs. So basically, they were, the Peshwas were there, the Gaikwad were there, the Holkars were there, the Bhosles and the Scindias. Now, in this battle, when Britishers see that the condition of Marathas, and Britishers see that all the chiefs were fighting among themselves only for the succession, for sitting on the throne of as Peshwa or for becoming the Peshwa, then its advantage was taken by the Britishers. Now, what happened? The first battle of Anglo-Maratha War started in 1775. In your textbook, 4 battles are mentioned, but in reality, only 3 battles took place between Marathas and Britishers. So, firstly, after the Battle of Panipat in 1761. So, what happened after the Battle of Panipat in 1761? The ruler of the Peshwa of Marathas, the third Peshwa, Balaji Bajirao, died in 1761 due to shock after his defeat at the third battle of Panipat. The Peshwa of Marathas at the time of battle of Panipat was Balaji Bajirao. He died due to the shock since he was defeated in that battle, and his son Madhav Rao succeeded him. His son Madhav Rao became the ruler. Madhav was able to recover some of the Maratha power and territories which they had lost in the Battle of Panipat. What happened after the death of Balaji Bajirao? His son Madhav Rao became the ruler and he was quite powerful also. He was able to regain the territories, some of the territories that he lost during the Battle of Panipat. Now, the English were aware of the growing Maratha power. When Madhav Rao died, there was a tussle for power in the Maratha camp. Now, that is only here. This war was broke out on the question of succession to the throne. who will become the next Peshwa after Madhav Rao. That only the power of the struggle of that succession was only going on at that time. And after that, his brother Narayan Rao became the Peshwa. After the death of Madhav Rao, Narayan Rao became the Peshwa, but his uncle Raghunath Rao wanted to become Peshwa. For that only they had a powerful struggle. Now, what Raghunath Rao did? Raghunath Rao go to English East India Company and sought for the help to defeat Narayan Rao, so that Raghunath Rao became the ruler of Maratha Empire. The it was started this war was started by the Treaty of Surat, and Treaty of Surat was signed between Raghunath Raghav, the uncle of Narayan Rao, and Britishers. According to this treaty, Raghunath Rao has to give Saliset and Bassein to Britishers. What happened in this treaty? Treaty of Surat, that took place in 1765, and with the Treaty of Surat only the Anglo-Maratha War started. Raghunath Rao had one treaty with Britishers, that he is giving his two territories, that is Saliset and Bassein, to Britishers, and in return or in lieu of that, Britishers had to help, or Britishers gave 2500 soldiers to Raghunath Rao for the war. Now what happened? So this is only at last the Maratha chief only defeated in this battle. The British and the army of Raghunath Rao attacked Peshwa and won. Peshwa was defeated. After that, the British Calcutta Council under the British Calcutta Council under Warren Hastings annulled this treaty, and the new treaty, the Treaty of Purandar, was signed. After the treaty that was signed is before this the treaty was Treaty of Surat. After the Treaty of Surat, Treaty of Purandar was signed in 1776 by Warren Hastings between Calcutta Council and one Maratha minister, Nana Fadnvis. So according to this treaty, Raghunath Rao was given a pension and Saliset was retained to the Britishers. Now Raghunath Rao was not become the ruler. What he got? He started getting the pension. Now Britishers conspire with Raghunath Rao also. First of all, what happened? Raghunath Rao make alliance with Britishers and defeated his Peshwa only. He defeated his Peshwa Narayan Rao only. What happened after that? Britishers did not make Raghunath Rao the ruler of Marathas or the Peshwa of Maratha. What they did, they give him 25, they give him basically pension and retain Saliset to Britishers only. But the British establishment at Bombay violated this treaty and sheltered Raghunath Raghav. In 1777, Nana Fadnvis went again his treaty with Calcutta Council and granted a port on the west coast to the French. Now Nana Fadnvis also went against the treaty and he gave one western coast to French. This led the struggle to advance a force toward Pune. Now both of them, Marathas and Britishers, came in front of each other. There was a battle at Vadgaon near Pune. In Marathas secured a decisive victory over the British, and in this battle Marathas only win. And after this, the Treaty of Salbai took place in 1782. The battle came to an end in 1782 and Treaty of Salbai was signed, and according to that treaty, Madhav Rao became the Peshwa. Madhav Rao became the Peshwa of what? Marathas. So up to this, now second Anglo-Maratha War, what happened? This war was broke out when in 1803, when Maratha chief Scindias and Bhosle, when Warren Hastings said Scindias and Bhosle to accept the subsidiary alliance. They said that no, we are not going to accept subsidiary alliance, and the Britishers declared war. So, but they were defeated in this battle. These Scindias and Bhosle were defeated and had to cede their territories, Ahmednagar and Broach, to the Britishers. And they were forced to give these territories to Britishers. There were many more territories that were given to Britishers after Second Anglo-Maratha War. So the Second Anglo-Maratha War took place in 1804 and ended in 1805, since Scindias and Bhosles were not ready to accept the subsidiary alliance. Now, the Third Anglo-Maratha War that fought in 1817 and ended in 1818. What happened? This war was broke out when Maratha chief refused to accept the subsidiary alliance. Now Warren Hastings go to Holkers and he said Holkers to accept the subsidiary alliance. Now Holker also refused, said that I am not ready to accept the subsidiary alliance, and again one war took place between Holkers and Britishers. That war was inconclusive. That means no conclusion came of that war, and peace treaty was signed between Holkers and Britishers. After that, Peshwa Baji Rao II attacked the British residency. After that, Peshwa Baji Rao II attacked on British residency, and in return, Britishers, and in that war, Britishers defeated the Marathas, and again Marathas were defeated by the Britishers. The title of Peshwa was withdrawn, and his territories annexed to British power. And at last, like this only, Marathas came under the control of Britishers, and the power of Peshwa totally withdrawn or totally ended. So like this only, in 1818, the Maratha also came under the direct control of the Britishers, and Bengal also came under the Awadh also. In Bengal they have already conquered. They conquered Awadh also, and after that they conquered Mysore also, and now they conquered Marathas also. Now they expand their expedition, and now the East India Company tried to conquer Sindh and Afghanistan. Basically, East India Company was trying to annex Afghanistan, but since for annexing Afghanistan they have to go through Sindh only. So first of all they have to conquer Sindh. So what happened in 1809? In 1809, the Britishers signed a treaty with the Amirs. Amirs were ruling Sindh at that time. So in 1809, Britishers decided that they will sign a treaty with the rulers of Sindh, and they signed one treaty also. And according to that treaty, Amir promised not to be allowed the French pass through their territories. And according to that treaty, Amirs promised Britishers that they will not allow any French to come to their territory, means in Sindh. And the British promised not to transport arms through Sindh, and Britishers said that we will not transport any arm through Sindh. What happened? In 1839, the British violated the treaty during First Afghan War. When Britishers were fighting with Afghan, so in 1839, Britishers violated their treaty and they take their arms from Sindh only. When they carried their armed forces to Afghanistan via Sindh, from Sindh only they go to Afghanistan. Instead of admitting them, after this much also, after breaking the or violating the treaty, Britishers said that we have not done this. That means they were not ready to admit it, and English East India Company accused the Amirs of getting against the British. Instead of that, they said that Amirs are only getting against us. Sindh was captured in 1843 by Charles Napier. Now Britishers were successful in conquering Sindh in 1843, and in 1840 English East India Company sought a longer with Afghanistan and established indirect company rule there, and Britishers were successful in establishing their indirect control over Afghanistan. So this is all of Afghanistan. Now last one is Punjab. As you learn in class 7th that Punjab was ruled by Maharaja Ranjit Singh. He was only the person who allowed all the missiles together, who came all the 12 missiles together. So after the death of Maharaja Ranjit Singh in 1839, after Maharaja Ranjit Singh died in 1839, Punjab experienced a period of instability. After his death in 1843, the son of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, Dalip Singh, became the ruler of Punjab. He became the ruler of Punjab, and her mother Rani Jindal became appointed as his regent as his guardian. That means he was very young. Dalip Singh was very young, so that on behalf of Dalit Singh, Rani Jindal will rule. The first Anglo-Sikh war broke out when the Sikh army. Now, when he came into power, the Sikh army tried to cross River Satluj and occupy Lahore. The Sikh army tried to acquire Lahore, and that during that time only the first Anglo-Sikh war took place. The British defeated the Sikh, and in this war, Sikhs were defeated by the British, and the Treaty of Lahore was signed. And Treaty of Lahore was signed between Britishers and Sikh. According to that treaty, Dalip Singh, Britishers recognized Dalip Singh as the ruler and his mother Rani Jindal as his regent. But the Sikh had to pay a huge war indemnity. That means huge fine for the damages or the loss in the war, and also give away parts of their territories to the British. And they were forced to give some of the territories of Punjab to the Britishers. Soon the Britishers accused Rani Jindal of anti-British activities and removed her from power. After some time, Britishers said that Rani Jindal is not working according to Britishers and they are doing anti-British activities. That means Rani Jindal is doing those activities that are not in interest of Britishers, and they remove Rani Jindal from the power. This resulted in another Anglo-Sikh war, and after that second Anglo-Sikh war took place in 1849. The Sikhs were again defeated and British annexed the state of Punjab in 1849. So this happened with Punjab also, that Anglo-Sikh war first Anglo-Sikh war took place and second Anglo-Sikh war took place, and after that Punjab also came under the control of Britishers. Now what we have seen up to this, that Britishers were annexing the areas by what? By direct wars. In this part we have seen Battle of Plassey, Battle of Buxar, Anglo-Mysore wars, Anglo-Maratha wars, Anglo-Sikh wars, the war with Sindh, the Afghan wars. We have seen all those things. So we come to know that Britishers, that means the rulers that were not ready to accept the annexation policies of Britishers fought direct wars with them to conquer those areas. So now till then, till here they are having Bengal, Mysore, Maratha, Sindh, Punjab under themselves. Now in the second part we will learn that what other ways Britishers accepted or tried to conquer the territories of India. We will see in the other part that how Britishers annex the areas or the territories of India without getting into direct wars. We will learn about the three annexation policies of Britishers, that is doctrine of lapse, subsidiary alliance. We will learn about all these things in next part. So this is all for today, students. Thank you.